Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190, where we interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex on what? Well, their area of expertise. Of course, I'm the host of the show, Matt Cather. Joining me on today's show, it's great to have him back, Attorney David Pritchard of the Pritchard Law Firm. Before we get to him, real quick, you can give him a call if you'd like to reach out, even if you want to for services or you're just trying to pick his brain a little bit. He's got a lot of information to discuss with you. If so, 817-285-8017. That's 817-285-8017. It's the website you can find them at is dlplegal.com. That's dlplegal.com. Mr. Pritchard, how are you doing today? It's great to have you back on Ask the Experts.
I'm doing good. Got out early this morning, did an activity with my daughter, so I'm ready to go today.
All right. Rocking and rolling early, eh?
Yep.
All right. Well, I tell you what, we got a lot discussed on today's show with you, and I guess we'll get right to things. I know we're going to be talking about some bankruptcy questions, and kind of before we get into that, actually, we'll set the stage. Give them a quick overview of what you're all about at your Pritchard Law Firm.
Okay. Well, I'm the principal at the Pritchard Law Firm, David Pritchard. I've been practicing law now for, it's 40 years, and we do what I call O-law. If somebody owes you too much money or you owe somebody too much money, we can help you out. Today we're going to talk about the situation mainly of where you owe somebody too much money. Whether it's filing bankruptcy or some other workout, we can help you. We'd like the opportunity to visit with you and put the worry that's been keeping you up at night or causing arguments at home on my shoulders and let me guide you through the situation. That's what we'd like to do at the Pritchard Law Firm.
And in regards to that, what is our main focus on that?
Our main focus is going to be bankruptcy. Depending on your situation, it would be a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy. We would analyze your problem and make it fit into what the bankruptcy court can help you, not just force your situation into some cookie cutter mold.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and just jump into it. If I can't file bankruptcy on my mortgage, on my car note and favorite debt, what should I do?
Okay. People many times think, hey, if I file bankruptcy, I want to keep my car. I want to keep my house. The truth of the matter is we can't pick and choose which debt we include in a bankruptcy. We have to include them all because we're trying to treat everybody fairly. But an experienced bankruptcy lawyer can explain to you how we would be able to keep your mortgage, keep your car. In a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, what we would do is we would reaffirm that debt. Similar to in church, we often reaffirm our faith. Well, that's all we're doing. We're filing bankruptcy, but we're saying, hey, no, we reaffirm this debt. We're going to continue to pay it as if we never filed bankruptcy. So you'll keep your house, you'll keep your car. In a Chapter 13, sometimes people are behind on those payments or those payments are higher than they can make. We can put you in a Chapter 13, and since they are secured, a mortgage and a car, they're secured because there's a lien attached to them. Your house loan is secured by your home. Your car loan is secured by your car. So we're able to treat them differently, and we're able to pay them through the plan, perhaps at a lower payment, at a lower rate, or let you simply get caught up if you've fallen behind from problems that are associated with your family situation. So we can't really eliminate inclusion, but we can deal with those problems so that you get to keep your house and car.
If somebody's in that situation and they do have to file for bankruptcy, and hopefully that's not the case, but if they do, what things would they lose if they did file for it?
Well, we're lucky. Here in Texas, we have probably the most liberal exemption rules in the United States. It's interesting, the history of them, and nobody really wants to know the history, but they came from all those people, that many of those Davy Crockett and people like him that came from Tennessee, many of them had debts, and Texas ended up with very liberal, what we call exemptions. Exemptions are things you get to keep. So we get to keep our house, we get to keep our cars, up to 2 cars. We get to keep our furnishings. Now, there's dollar limits on those, but those dollar limits are very, very liberal. Most of my clients would file bankruptcy and not lose anything that they would like to keep. Now, occasionally we got that guy that comes in and he's got 4 cars. We may have some issues there, and we may have to talk about what we're going to do. You can always file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy and keep your assets and pay a little higher if that's what you want to do. But there's very few things that the typical debtor, if you're a struggling paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden something has caused you to miss some paychecks, whether that's health or whether that's laid off, you're probably not going to lose anything in a typical bankruptcy that you would want to keep.
You know, I know if somebody's in this situation, and one of the main questions I'm assuming you get, Mr. Pritchard, is if they do have to file bankruptcy, I'm assuming they're always asking about their credit. If that's the case, if they do file for bankruptcy, will it ruin their credit forever or even just a long time?
That's probably the number one question we get in every case. What's it going to do to my credit? Because so many people are worried about their credit because since they can't afford to pay things on a cash forward basis, they're worried about, how it's going to impact my ability to incur credit. Well, I've been doing this a long time. Long time ago, 20 years ago, it would have ruined your credit. It would have impacted your credit for as much as 10 years. It was a big problem for people as far as getting reorganized. But technology has positively impacted bankruptcy in your credit. If you think about where you were 6 years ago financially, that's probably a much different situation than where you are now. And the credit bureaus and the lenders are able to look at you as you are now. And that's what's really important, and they can get where years ago and even a few years ago we couldn't get a true today picture. We can get a very quick true today picture. We can know how much you earn. We can know what your expenses are. We can know what your assets are. Thus, credit decisions are very short-term decisions now. You can get them much more quickly. I've had clients come out of bankruptcy, complete bankruptcy, and tell me 60 days later they're getting credit card applications. Now, those are people who are in a better situation than a lot of people. They're got a job, they're making good money. But if you think about it from the lender's point of view, who do you want to lend $20,000 to? David, who has $75,000 in credit card debt and can't make those payments and is struggling to get everything done on time? Or David, who filed bankruptcy and has no debt and is making $60,000 a year and can certainly figure out how to pay your car payment or your loan in his budget? Well, that's what's happened to credit. We're able to look at let's look at what's going on now, not what's looking on in the past. And that's improved our credit situation. So bankruptcy is not damaging to your credit long term. I've had a number of clients who actually end up with a better credit situation by filing bankruptcy than not.
Well, I'm sure that makes it feel a little bit more optimistic about the situation, that's for sure.
It certainly helps the rebuilding process, yes.
Now, if they did file for bankruptcy, Mr. Pritchard, can they stop paying for their house or car? How does that work as well?
Well, that starts with a twofold or two-prong way of looking at things. Prong number one is, do you want to keep your house and car? If you want to keep your house and car, we're going to make payments. If you don't want to keep your house and car, you don't make payments. Many people coming out of a divorce have determined they don't want that house. They don't want the house they lived in with that spouse. They're upside down on it. They can't make it. And so they can stop making those house payments without any problem. Same with the car. But the vast majority of the clients come in the door, they want to keep their house and car. So there may be circumstances where we will not make payments for a short period of time, 2 or 3 months. But eventually, because of I spoke about secured credit earlier. If a debt is secured by an asset, then if you want to keep that asset, you're going to have to pay for it. So if you want to keep your house and car, you're going to have to pay for it. But, depending on your situation, we can talk about whether that's necessary to make those payments immediately, or if we're going to put them through a plan, or maybe not make them at all. But typically, there's not the free lunch that I file bankruptcy and I get to keep my house and don't pay anybody. Otherwise, the line would be really long at my door, I assume.
Yeah, probably so, right?
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, folks, we're talking with attorney David Pritchard on today's Ask the Expert. It's great to have him back on the show. Real quick, and of course, a Pritchard Law Firm. If you want to reach out to the fine folks over there, it's 817-285-8017. That's 817-285-8017. That's a number you can reach them at. And, of course, you can find them online at dlplegal.com. That's dlplegal.com. We're talking, topic of conversation today with attorney David Pritchard. It is bankruptcy. We're going to take a quick break, though. We're going to come back. It'll be quick, and then we'll come back. We still have a lot of information we want to cover with him on the other side of things. So stay tuned. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We'll be right back after the break, folks.
At the Pritchard Law Firm, they are proud to offer knowledgeable first-class service to every single client. Backed by decades of experience in both collections and bankruptcy, our founder, David, represents creditors, lenders, and individuals who face a financial dilemma. At the Pritchard Law Firm, their caseload covers nearly all areas of the collection field, guarding clients' rights in regards to collateral and unpaid accounts. They regularly take on cases that involve home equity lawsuits, foreclosure, evictions, sequestrations, replevin, general collection matters, and bankruptcy matters under Chapters 7, 11, and 13 of the Bankruptcy Code. Most of our services are provided on a flat fee basis. This means you can set a budget for each file. We primarily represent clients in Fort Worth, Dallas, Parker, and Denton counties, as well as the surrounding regions of the DFW Metroplex. Contact the Pritchard Group today at 817-285-8017.
Welcome back to the show, folks. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190, where we interview local prominent professionals here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area on their area of expertise. Today on today's show, 11 to 11:30, of course, we have attorney David Pritchard. Great to have him back on Ask the Experts. Bankruptcy has been the topic of conversation today. Before we get back to him, remember 817-285-8017. It's 817-285-8017 and dlplegal.com. It's dlplegal.com that's how you can reach out to the folks at the Pritchard Law Firm. Let's get right back to it, Mr. Pritchard. And I know something that's been going on crazy lately because of the gas prices and everything, transportation industry, especially trucking. My father actually works in that. Let's talk a little bit about that and how it's affecting them.
I'm really glad we get a chance to talk about that because you and I are complaining when we go to the pump. Oh, gas is $3.99 a gallon, $4.10 a gallon, whatever it's been. But we're just paying that a little bit at a time. Imagine if your business or your livelihood required you to transport goods to one location to the other, what those people are doing. And we're really talking about two different groups of people that are kind of left out in this. My gas price is high. My groceries are high. Well, why are my groceries high? Because the transportation expenses is what the grocery stores will tell us. But it's that middle guy who's getting killed. It's that independent trucker. He's putting diesel in his trucks, and he's paying that higher and higher prices. And I'm telling you, he's not getting paid higher and higher for his services. He is expected to absorb that. And those poor truckers, those independent truckers, are really suffering. So if you're a trucker and you're suffering with this, come and talk to us. We can give you some help. We can't solve all your problems because your business is just dependent upon that expense, but we can help you. The other people who are also getting hurt in there are the small businesses that supply transportation, the furniture delivery companies, the food delivery companies, the beverage delivery companies, moving companies. Those people are all seeing the same problems. And what is happening to them is not that they're able to keep up with their costs because people are going to balk at paying too much. They're having to cut their bottom line and tighten their belts, and those type of companies. So if you work in that industry and you're struggling, we'd be glad to help you. I don't know that there's a long-term solution other than we got to get the price of diesel and gas under control, but we can certainly help you and keep some of those things that are keeping you awake at night. And I'm sure when you're driving on the road, just seeing that gas tank go down and down and down just has got to make your stomach sick to think what it's going to cost me the next time that I go to the gas station. I drove to Minnesota with my brother on a fishing trip that turned out to be a boating trip since fishing wasn't too good. But we took his Suburban, and just to play with our own minds, we filled it up every time that it came to a half a tank because it was just so overwhelming to think that we were going to pay nearly $175 to fill his Suburban with gas. So those people are out there. We can help you get those bills under control and get you a plan together so you can try to stay in business and continue to provide for your family in the industry that you're at. But it's a tough place out there for those folks right now.
It's super unfortunate because they rely so heavily on gas. We can sit here and complain about diesel or gas, but expect when your business literally evolves around that, I couldn't imagine the numbers that they've been looking like over the past, year. But we're slowly making progress, Mr. Pritchard, and hopefully that's a relief for them, and I hope for the best,
Yeah, we all do.
Now, let's go back and let's talk about, a lot of people probably had a question about this because in 2005, a lot of people thought that the government essentially got rid of the bankruptcy. Can you really explain that for us?
Well, all the court really did in 2005 was require there be what they call a means test, an income level test, so that bankruptcy became fair. Prior to that, a good lawyer could take a client who makes $20,000 a month, but somehow has messed up his situation, so he has $22,000 in monthly expenses. We could put that client through a bankruptcy, a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and he'd come out the other side with not paying his creditors and still having his $20,000 a month income. Well, the court determined that just wasn't fair. Actually, the legislature, not so much the court. And so they set an income guideline. And if you make above a certain number, depending on your family situation, married, number of children, house, all that type of stuff, you can file a Chapter 7 and come out the other side having all your unsecured debt wiped out. Or they'll say, no, we need to put you in a Chapter 13 where you need to pay some percentage of your debt. Now, that percentage of the debt may be 2%. That percentage of the debt may be 100%. But really, that rule came out of, I grew up in Iowa, and, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. Well, there were too many hogs slipping through the bankruptcy system and coming out in a way that was unfair, that the legislature just said, we're going to make changes and can put some controls on it because it was just unfairly beneficial to the wealthy to file bankruptcy back then. And so that's what the change is. But today, we can all still file bankruptcy. It's just there are some income restrictions on whether you can file a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13. And whatever your income level is, come in. We can explain it. We can fine-tune it to get what's best for you so that you can get your debt under control.
Something I really wanted to cover with you, Mr. Pritchard, was that I know this can be a burden, of course, for a lot of people, and it's a tough situation. But even, and that's already a tough process to deal with. But what if you're in this situation where you got to worry about your employer maybe firing you because you filed for bankruptcy. How does that work? What would somebody do if they are dealing with that?
Well, the first thing is that the federal law protects you. Now, I don't want to be ignorant and pretend that there aren't some employers who are going to take the position that if you can't take care of your money, you can't take care of mine, or you can't be involved in my business. It's out there. But the one change that is really a good deal for individuals is there's a good chance your employer never has to know you filed bankruptcy because of the fact that all the bankruptcy information is online, and you have to be a registered user. I'm not involved in the music industry, but I'm going to guess to play records and such on a radio station, you have to provide some information to get access to get those things. Well, it's the same thing. There are just restrictions for access. And so we rarely see that. It's a fear people have. And in fact, I have some people come see me who have top secret clearance, and they need to file bankruptcy because it helps them with their clearance. The same as we talked earlier. Who would you rather make a loan to? David, who's just filed bankruptcy and has no debt, or David, who has $60,000 worth of debt? Well, the concern is who is more likely to provide government secrets or business secrets to some inappropriate person, the person whose financial situation is under control or the person who has a great deal of debt. So we don't really see the loss of job situation as a true problem, but it's certainly a concern that people have, and we can talk about their particular job, their particular employer, and there's a good chance that over the past years that I or somebody in my office has dealt with that company, and we can tell you about our experiences. But I would say our major employers, we don't see firings because people filed bankruptcy.
Well, unfortunately, we're out of time on today's Ask the Experts with you. But if you have a quick closing remarks for our listeners out there, what would that be, sir?
The quick closing remark would be, if you're struggling with your finances, if you and your wife are talking about them, arguing about them, you're not sleeping well at night, you're worried if you're going to have to move and take your kids out of a new school, that's the time that you should come talk to a lawyer. And at the Pritchard Law Firm, we'd be glad to talk to you. There's no charge for that conference. And let me put your worries on my shoulder and guide you through a system that will alleviate those worries for you. And so I just say, if you have any of those symptoms, or you're suffering from health issues and employment issues, come talk to us. We'd like to help you out. We're not bad people.
And if you do want to reach out to him, remember, one more time, it's 817-285-8017. That's 817-285-8017. DLPlegal.com is the website you can find the fine folks at Pritchard Law Firm at. Mr. Pritchard, it's great to have you back on the show. Great to talk to you again. I look forward to doing it here very soon in the future, okay?
Thank you. Enjoyed it. The time just flies. It's an easy project.
It goes by so fast. Always a pleasure talking to him. We got one more great show lined up for today on Ask the Experts, so stay tuned. This is Ask the Experts here on Talk Radio 1190. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back here on Talk Radio 1190, Ask the Experts.